Purple here and
Ros
and
Wonder Girl.
and we are here for this week's Autism and Company video, although Wonder Girl is only here temporarily because she is very, very sick. So she's off school today because you're very, very sick. You're very, very sick. So she's going to go and back to her sick bed very soon, and we're going to make a video about autism and mental health. So keep watching. So, this week we are going to talk about mental health and autism, and this is obviously quite a massive topic and one that's particularly relevant to me because I spent a lot of years in the mental health system prior to obtaining my autism diagnosis. So we're going to talk about the kinds of mental health stuff that is kind of just part of being autistic and having to cope. We're going to talk about the types of mental health stuff that is a comorbid or separate condition that you can have alongside autism. We're also going to talk about some strategies for maintaining good mental health. So I'm going to start with you, and I'm going to look at you because I watched Mayim Bialik, who makes YouTube videos. You might know her. She plays Amy in The Big Bang Theory, and she makes really great YouTube videos. I think it's Grok Nation. Go check her out. She does a lot of stuff with other people, and she always looks at them intently. So I'm going to give that a really good go today whilst Ros is talking. So Ros, what kinds of mental health stuff do you think is just a factor and a part and parcel of being on the spectrum?
So I think a big one is anxiety, and I think that happens with everyone, and a lot of it is just stuff that you experience in your everyday life. There's like a mild amount of anxiety that goes with just being a human. Mm-hmm. But in being autistic, you experience anxiety in different situations to other people, and that can be because of sensory things, because of social situations, and the different way your brain processes information. So that means that you have different strategies and kind of need to live your life a little bit differently. And that's absolutely fine and normal, and you might even call anxiety something completely different. You might not call it anxiety. I didn't call it anxiety for years. I was just like, oh, there is just something, there's this big, I can't do that. And I either push past it and can do it, or I just can't do it, and I'm absolutely fine with that. And I don't, because I thought anxiety was very associated with worry, mm-hmm. and really sitting and really worrying about things. I was like, I don't do that. I just have things where I'm just like, that just has a feeling in me that's not good, so I'm just not going to do it, or I'm going to do it and really work on that.
Yeah.
And there's also, the cycling of emotions. So you're going to get a level of sadness, and you're going to get a level of happiness, and sometimes that can be more intense with autism because of the way that you process emotions, and sometimes don't process emotions. So with alexithymia, then when you get sad, you're sometimes more likely to be really sad rather than the mid-levels.
Because those emotions are actually quite frightening if you're not so good at processing them. Yeah,
and if you miss out on the path to getting really sad, you're suddenly just really sad. And then it's really awful and scary because you're like, I don't know how I got here. I don't know where this has come from. I don't know, I don't know how to identify why. So it can be worse, but also, there's a level where that's manageable, and then there's a level where it impacts your life in a major way, where it becomes a separate, comorbid mental health condition.
Yeah, I think maybe for me, I'll probably, like what you've said, I'll start to feel a bit sad, but I'll just assume it's part of my general mishmash of autism-related anxiety and stuff, and I'll just be like, strategies, like you said, then just, it's too late once I recognise, actually, this wasn't an autism thing, this was a depression thing, and I actually need to do something about it.
This was a stress thing, this is a build-up of, life things that actually this isn't autism. It's related.
Yeah.
Because my autism has meant that I'm interacting in these ways, but actually this is something different.
And my strategies aren't working, so I'm going to need more support. Yeah, absolutely. So I think ultimately, to sum that up, what we're saying is that autistic people naturally are more anxious, naturally are more wired to flight or fight, naturally struggle more with extremes of mood, or in fact with any kinds of mood. And so that can look like a mental health condition because it is mental health. And so when I was being diagnosed with other mental health conditions prior to my autism diagnosis, no one in the mental health department was ever like, oh yeah, this is clear-cut bipolar, or oh yeah, this is clear-cut depression. They were always a little bit confused, but that was the closest diagnosis that they had to access for the things that I was experiencing, because they didn't, I mean, I can only assume they had no pre-experience or knowledge of autistic women of my age.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. So in addition to that, obviously, because we are people, mental health issues as a separate diagnosis can be still an issue for us.
Yeah.
And in fact, recent kind of studies and statistics would say that 7 out of 10 autistic people have a mental health condition. So whether that's in addition to or whether that's an interpretation of, I'm not entirely sure, but those are the statistics on the National Autistic Society website. So in my experience, the kinds of mental health conditions that autistic people tend to experience are depression, anxiety disorders, eating disorders, and OCD.
Yeah.
Would you have anything to add to that?
I know, I think that sounds like
The common. I'm not
the
saying
common
there's never
ones,
been an
yeah.
autistic person with any other label before you all start
Yeah.
freaking out in the
I
comment
think it's
box.
quite common to have autism linked with loads of different things, and like not mental health conditions, but things like dyspraxia, ADHD. But in terms of mental health conditions, I think those are the main.
Those are the more common.
Yeah.
So I think we'll talk about those in particular today to try and, cover
Yeah.
the most bases. So obviously anxiety. I recently, I'm in a good place to talk about this because I recently, my anxiety recently crossed over from just day-to-day autism anxiety into needing treatment anxiety. And I had panic attacks in the night and I was kind of unable to do things because of the anxiety that I would ordinarily be able to do by using strategies. So after about 6 weeks of this, I recognised that this was something separate from my autism. So I went to the GP and I sought treatment and I've started treatment and I'm starting to feel better. So that's kind of me, 3 years post-diagnosis, with the knowledge that I have and the self-awareness that I have, ideal scenario for dealing with this situation,
Yeah.
I would say. So that's anxiety, and I would say depression is hard being autistic, and that can tip over into depression, or it could be a chemical predisposition.
Yeah,
towards
I'd
depression.
say like one of the reasons I got my autism diagnosis was the period of depression I experienced at uni, which kind of partially came from me not understanding I was autistic, and not like having different expectations of myself and kind of not being able to handle like certain things that other people were easily able to handle, and that tipped into a level where I was really depressed. And I recognised it because my mum was depressed when I was younger, and I was like, this is not right. So I sought treatment. I went to counselling, which wasn't overly helpful, and then medication, which was much better. And then I started to look at it and look at how I got there, and started researching women with autism and found that and was like, this is how I got there. But this was a thing that I experienced, and it's the thing that comes back sometimes. Then I see myself going down a same path, and I'm like, okay, I need to put some strategies in here. This is not just, regular autism problems. This is something that is on top of that. Maybe your expectations of yourself, you need to look at those and really look at what you want rather than what people want from you, and kind of take a step back and look at using more of the strategies that we're going to talk about.
Sure.
To maintain a good level of mental health, because
Yeah.
it's so easy to not do that.
It feels like it takes more work to maintain a good level of mental health coming from the position that we come from. And then moving on to the other diagnoses, I feel kind of qualified to talk about eating disorders in that I have experienced an eating disorder.
Yeah.
So I had an eating disorder in my early to mid 20s. I was working as a circus artist, spending a lot of time stood in front of mirrors, and I would say that most people would assume that the reason I developed an eating disorder was because I wanted to look thin for what I was doing, but actually that's not why it happened. At the same time, I had a training regime. I think what had happened was I'd finished with education, I'd done school, I'd done university, and I'd done circus school, which was all very structured for me. And then I was working self-employed as a circus artist, so I needed to create some structure. So the structure that I created was way too much exercise, going to the gym, working out, and walking everywhere, and way too much control over my food. So I had a little book that would write down everything that I ate. I would work out how many calories I'd had each day. I would work out what my weight was every single day, what the fluctuations were, what I needed to do about it. And it became like the way that I was controlling the world. was through eating and exercising and maintaining a certain, or ideally getting below a certain weight. And it was also to do with, so there's that sort of control, routine-y side of autism, but it was also to do with not wanting to be an adult woman.
Yeah.
In that I have always been a curvy girl. I've never been a thin, even as a child, even as a teenager, I was always curvy, and I found that really difficult because I wanted to be like almost androgynous, like some of the girls that I saw at school who didn't have chests and had very thin legs and had very sort of straight up and down figures, and I really wanted that. That felt safer. It's really hard to explain, but there was something about the idea of occupying a smaller amount of space and being less womanly that felt safer. And whether that's to do with autism or whether that's just somehow, that's just an eating disorder, but I would say it came about, I would say I felt that way about my body, but it turned into an eating disorder because I had this rigidity of thinking that I couldn't not follow the rules that I had set for myself.
Yeah, and I think that element kind of, for me, I think goes throughout all autism and mental health difficulties, is that level of maintaining control and not having control, and it's that real struggle. I mean, and when I was depressed, there was a lot of things where I was like trying to take control of my life by doing certain, and like putting in routines that weren't very healthy, but being like, no, this is what I need to do, and like having people, like talking to people and hearing what they were saying about it, but being unable to like relate to that, being like, this, I need to break out this cycle of behaviour, but I'm convinced that I'm doing the right thing for myself.
And frightened of what will happen if I don't.
Yeah.
And also, I think even now, like even, so on Monday, I met up with someone, I'm not going to say who, and the first thing they said to me was, I've lost some weight because I've been on antidepressants, and I think it's probably noticeable now because it's about a stone. And they said to me, oh my goodness, you look amazing, you've lost some weight. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I've lost weight because I've been feeling dreadful. And I say, because I'm learning as an autistic woman that I don't have to share everything with everyone, so I say, oh yes, I've been walking the dog every day, I've got a new dog, I've been walking it every day, that's why I've lost the weight. Oh, They couldn't leave it there. Then I got, oh no, it can't just be that. You must be eating less. I said, no, I mean, I walk quite far. Oh no, you must be eating less. So then I went with, oh yeah, well of course I've gone gluten-free. So that probably means that I'm eating differently and less. So that's probably it. And from there, I started to feel this, because I'm still struggling with anxiety and depression, and because I'm still trying to get control over my life. Oh, great, they thought I was thin. Brilliant. So maybe I can get back into those rules, because apparently that's success. Mm-hmm. And so I guess there's also a level of, I'm an autistic woman trying to fit in a neurotypical world, having always felt different, and I'm being told by the world that success looks like this.
Yeah.
So there is probably also an element of wanting to mask fully into what into what the world considers the ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and also like, don't say that to people. I don't think we should value each other's worth by the size of our pants.
No, and I was
putting that out there.
There's something so dangerous about being like, oh, you're thin now, so you're immediately attractive, and I'm like, I mean, I sometimes think people look less attractive when they're not the weight they should be. It's like there are some people you can see on their face, it's like they become gaunt, and it's like they're not a healthy weight, and you can see the fact that they're really thinking about it all the time, and they're not feeling comfortable in their own body.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's honestly much nicer in my experience post-eating disorder is to just not even go there at all, because it's so. I would say the eating disorder was one of the, and I have a history of stressful things, was one of the most intensely stressful and unpleasant periods of time for both myself and Mr. Purple.
Yeah.
And I think he would agree with that. It was horrendous, and neither of us would ever want to go there again. So I'm very careful.
I think it's quite hard to maintain a healthy relationship with your own body. For anyone, especially in this society where we've got all the stuff in newspapers about the ideal weight to be, and it's like you actually need to communicate with your body, which is hard, especially as an autistic person, and go, okay, what's right for me? Maybe I don't need to think about it too much, and just think about feeling comfortable. So wearing clothes that make me feel good, eating what makes me feel good, not eating what doesn't make me feel good, even though it is good at sometimes. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's true, and I think that actually what this comes down to...
And that's one of the strategies.
Well, we'll just put some in there. I think actually what this comes down to also is that autistic people with their leaky self-esteem bucket and natural tendency towards anxiety, and most of us having had experiences of not fitting in and being rejected, all of those things would combine potentially to mental health problems anyway.
We haven't talked about OCD.
OCD. I don't know anything about OCD.
I
so
know
I'll leave that
a
with
little
you.
bit. But not too much about how it links with autism. But I have had experience with one of the things that occurs in OCD, which is intrusive thoughts.
Oh, I've had intrusive thoughts. Is that an OCD thing?
It's an OCD thing, and especially intrusive thoughts of violence or harm that you don't relate to yourself, but just come into your head, and you don't really know where these thoughts are coming from, and you're not really going to do anything about them. But maybe you need to do and the thing about what I know about OCD is you often get these thoughts and then create strategies because you go, oh, if I do this, I won't do that violent thing. So if I, tap 10 times, and it's that's when it becomes an unhealthy relationship, is when you go, I have to do this to stop this from happening.
Yeah, okay, because it's like
Forgive me if I'm wrong, but
I know that people that have OCD,
because it's not just about keeping clean and keeping things tidy. It can be there's a great Maria Bamford does a bit where she's like, if I sing this song, then God won't turn me gay. If I do this, I won't chop up my family and eat them in a salad. It's things that you're this isn't to do with me. This is an external thought kind of that's come into my head, and I can't associate with it, so I need to do these things to stop it becoming me. And it's that behaviour, that compulsive behaviour, when it becomes the thing that you feel like you have to do, it becomes really dangerous, and that's when you need to seek professional mental health support. Because
I think because I know that when, I don't know about you, but when
there's an element of routines in autism which is really good and healthy, and there's an element where you're doing a routine so much and you feel like you have to do it, and it's the most important thing, and that's actually can be damaging, and it's best to talk to someone to find out whether that is a damaging thing or whether that's a useful thing that you're using.
Sure.
Which is very hard, I think.
Yeah. I know that they screen. I know that they must be concerned about autistic people and OCD, because I know that as part of my diagnostic appointment, I was actually screened for OCD.
Yeah.
So it must be a common comorbid, but luckily, I don't think I've ever experienced it. So anything that we've talked about here, if you relate to the OCD stuff we've talked about, or the eating disorder stuff, or the anxiety that's crossed over into something diagnosable, we would recommend that you go as a first point of call to your GP and ask for some specialist support and help with that.
And also make sure you talk about your autism diagnosis, and if someone doesn't understand that, find a mental health professional that does. You can ask for that.
Well,
it's going to be difficult.
When I went along recently, she said, would you like to be referred for some CBT? And I said, potentially, but is that CBT that's targeted at people on the autistic spectrum? Oh, no, it won't be. Well, is there anything available for people on the autistic spectrum? Oh, no, there isn't. Well, will any of the professionals in the mental health services be able to help me? Are there any specialists? Oh, no. So basically, unfortunately, I would say that, because yes, the advice would be go ask them for naught, but in the realities of the British mental health system, be as informed as you can. Try the therapies that are designed for neurotypical people, but don't worry if they don't feel like what's right for you. And if you can possibly afford to go private, there are definitely people working privately that are experienced in working with autistic people, counsellors and CBT specialists and stuff. But otherwise, I think unfortunately you kind of do have to advocate for yourself or get someone to advocate for you.
So finding the right resources and getting someone, trying to find someone. So if you meet someone who's really against the idea that your autism affects you, find someone else. Even if they don't know about autism, if they're open to the idea of hearing your perspective, that's the kind of mental health professional you want.
Yeah.
Even if they don't necessarily have a wide experience with autism, if they are open
you could be the person that helps them progress with that.
And makes them go away and research it.
So I wouldn't want to pretend here that we have oodles of resources and that your GP is going to straight away be sorting you out, because unfortunately I really can't say that that's the case.
And often it takes a
few visits,
and even a long time on the waiting list now, which is a shame.
So, but do go anyway, because that's what you should do. So Then I would say I'd like to get into just a little bit of the kinds of strategies that we use, let's say 2 strategies each that we use as part of our day-to-day lives with the intention of not ending up mentally unwell, of maintaining good mental health. Do you want to...
I think having a supportive social and family network is one of the main important things for me, and trying to be honest with them and having people around that ask me questions about how I'm doing in a way that it is not uncomfortable for me. So in a way that's very supportive and not very much like, oh no, I want to know how you, like people who are like, I'll step back if you're not going to answer me, but I'll just let you know that I'm here if you need me, whatever that is you need. If you just need someone to go to the supermarket with, you just need someone to make you dinner. And just having that lower level support in your family and having people that you know that you can just be honest around and just relax around, like just being able to come around here, sit on the sofa with you and having a relaxed day and making sure I keep having regular relaxed days.
I would say that I don't think that's necessarily particularly easy for a lot of autistic people, and B, at your age, these social networks are way, 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 way more easily obtained than they are at my age. Once you get past a certain age, you have points where you make friends, you have points, you have university, you have your early 20s, everyone's working, no one's got kids. Then you have the school gates, which your kids going to school, or the nursery gates or whatever. And if you're outside of those times, if I were to try and make new friends now, a lot of people are married with children and it's not actually so easy. So I would like to add a caveat to that just 1 or 2 people.
Yeah. That's what I mean by network. I don't feel like you need a really detailed network.
Sort of sounds like...
I mainly just
obviously we both have expansive social networks,
so big,
massive, huge.
But like just
full.
The people, like the connections that you're like, I feel like I can be comfortable with this person,
and
at least one person.
Yeah.
If, you know,
or if it's not a person,
it could be on the internet.
It could be a cat, it could be a dog,
cat or a dog.
Just contact with another being.
Yeah.
That hopefully can,
or places that you feel comfortable as well. That's what I like. I have a cafe I like to go to, and that makes me feel really comfortable because I know I can be myself there, and I know I can sit and read my book. And there's like, you know, it can be when I was living somewhere else, it was like this park that I go to, and it's like this comfortable place, and it's either a place or a person. It doesn't really matter, where I know that I can just relax.
Yeah, I have a spot on my dog walk, don't I, that I like to sit at, a particular spot that has a good view, and and it's safe and it's the same.
So your strategy from you?
So I would say key, first and foremost, most important thing for all autistic people to maintain good mental health is to focus on self-esteem and self-esteem building, because I strongly believe that we veer towards lower self-esteem, whether that's part of the condition or whether that's due to the experiences of having the condition, but we do. So if you have autistic children and you're wanting to maintain their good mental health, I would recommend starting to create opportunities for them to succeed in small ways and then highlighting those successes, especially if those successes have come off the back of a difficulty or hard work, so that they can start to recognise that things aren't always straightforward, but that they are capable and that they can succeed. If you are an adult and you don't have a parent to do this, create opportunities for yourself to succeed. And success can look like going and meeting a friend for a coffee. Success can look like getting up and having a shower on the worst days. But I would urge you, if you're really struggling with low self-esteem, to start a self-esteem journal of some kind, in which at the end of each day, or when you remember, for goodness sake, don't get low self-esteem about not filling in the self-esteem journal, because that's the sort of thing I would do. But start a journal, and on the days you can, write in it the best thing that happened that day, even if that's, I made a particularly good cup of tea this morning. And
you know what, I was just going to say that, like, I wrote...
You know when it is a good cup of tea, isn't that the best?
I did a blog when I was younger, which was like 365 days of happiness, and I did different things on each day, and one of them was just like, I had really good soup, like, and it was just Heinz tomato soup, and I was like, made Heinz tomato soup, made me happy.
Nice.
It was good.
Yeah, so focusing on the small things and actually noting those small things, so that when you're having a particularly bad day, you can look back over that. If your self-esteem is really, really low, I would actually go as far as to say you need some therapy. Keeping our self-esteem afloat, so that when the bumps and knocks of the world hit us, we are strong enough to say, what was it you said, that woman said, I am
Oh God.
I am enough.
I am enough. Yes.
You can think, I am enough. That's my strategy.
Write it on your mirror, write it anywhere.
You are enough.
That's
Whatever it is you're doing, if you're sitting in your pyjamas watching this video whilst eating a giant bar of Cadbury's chocolate, you are enough.
And if you haven't
That's
managed to go down to
threatening.
the shop to get the Cadbury's chocolate, so you're just in your pyjamas,
That's
you're
enough.
still enough.
Still enough. So, strategy from you?
So it's one that I'm still trying to enforce, and I know you also use mindfulness.
Mindfulness, yes.
It's really hard
Really hard, yeah.
to start doing it, and I'm trying, and I'm finding when I do it, it's really useful.
I mean, I've been harassing you to do it, haven't I?
I know, and I found a podcast, and I'm like, and I've been doing I've been introducing it slowly, and I know I need to introduce it a bit faster, but I'll get there.
No, but you are enough.
I am enough.
I mean, I think actually
And I'm trying not to get myself down for not doing it, but I'm like, when I do it, it's really useful, and it's one of the things, when we went to the conference recently, they'd done a study on CBT and mindfulness in autism and strategies, and CBT is initially more useful and then drops off after treatment. Mindfulness is slower to get started, but once you start doing it regularly, it just gets better and better. It just keeps you at a better level.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, I see that.
It really does. And actually, I would say, because I think there's a natural tendency towards not wanting to do mindfulness in autistic people, because we're like, well, what?
It's just all a bit bullshit.
It's just a bit, it's a bit wishy-washy.
I think that's in everyone, not just autistic people.
Maybe, yeah. But I had a friend who also harassed me, probably for about 5 years, you know who you are, to do mindfulness. Now, so no, it's not for me. And now, having done it for a year, in a really committed way, I can practice mindfulness without actually specifically sitting down to practice mindfulness in a really effective way. In addition to that, just what you were saying, I've been doing yoga and I incorporate my mindfulness into the yoga. But I had the same thing for my whole life. I've been exercise, hard at it or not at all. And I've had this whole thing about how it needs to be perfect. And finally, in the last few weeks, I've got to, it's not going so well today. That's all right.
Yeah.
And that is great. Really great. It feels like a massive step forward for me.
Yeah.
It's I did a rubbish yoga session, but I did it.
Yeah.
I tried.
I only did 5 minutes of mindfulness, but I did it.
But you did it, yeah, exactly. Or I didn't do it, but because I was taking care of myself in other ways today, and it wasn't happening
I did it
today.
yesterday.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah. So my final strategy would be routine. I think that people assume that autistic people naturally come with a routine, maybe out of the womb, with a routine in their hands, and we just do it.
We know the best routine for us.
Yeah, and then we stick rigidly to it, and that's the kind of stereotype. And I know that that's not actually true for a lot of autistic people, because we have difficulty with executive functioning, which means that often we can be paralysed by indecision of what we should be doing with our time. Feel familiar?
Yeah.
So
and it can be so paralysing, and then you're like, just do the routine thing. Yeah, okay.
Exactly, that's why the routine is good.
But you've just wasted an hour. Even though at the beginning you knew you were going to do the routine.
Yeah, exactly. But the routine, for me, is it goes from morning till night. I've talked about it before, I probably don't need to talk about it again. But it can be, because I was talking to you about routines, and Ros lives a very different life to me. She's not got children. She's got a job where she has to go out of the house to be employed. She lives in a house share. It's a really different lifestyle, and it wasn't something that you felt was possible, was it?
No, it's something I always struggle with, but I've recently moved and I'm finding myself more able to put in some routines, and I'm still working on it and working on getting the ones that feel most comfortable, because it is quite hard to fit in around a life that is a bit more fluid,
changeable.
Yeah, changeable. Each day is different, and then I have different things going on, and I was living a life that was very chaotic, which wasn't very good for my stress levels. Now my stress levels are lower, and I'm like, actually, if I start figuring out some good routines now, it will help me out in the future. So it's when you're feeling good, this is the time to start thinking about these things and start inputting them, because it's just when you're at a stressed, anxious point, it's going to be much harder to do that.
Yeah.
And you actually need to work on self-protection strategies, so making yourself feel comfortable, calming yourself down,
I'm aware that the time
things.
we're making a really insanely long video, so I just want to sum up with what I was going to say, which was the routine can be something really simple, like you have breakfast and you have a shower every morning. Start there.
I sit on the sofa in the evening.
Yeah, exactly. Start small. So I'm going to wrap that up, because otherwise this is just the the longest video we've ever made, and you probably don't want to watch us for an hour. So thanks for watching. What are we doing next time?
Have
a look. Ros is just going to have a look.
Q&A.
So this is very exciting. If you've made it this far, in next month's video, which isn't necessarily a month from now, we just put them in for that month, we will be talking about the things... No, hang on.
We'll be answering the questions you want us to answer.
Yeah, we'll be doing a Q&A. So
send them in.
Send us questions, otherwise we'll just be sat here, won't we?
No, we've got loads on the videos already.
Oh yeah, so we'll pick some of those. But send in questions, because let's face it, we're more likely to be lazy and just look at this video and pick those. So send in questions about anything and everything to do with autism, to do with us. We might not answer, but you can ask. Yeah. And we will answer your questions in the next video. Woohoo! We watched out the videos and we're like, why do we do... Anyway, I think we should just finish with that statement.
Yeah.
You are...
enough.